Hello, fellow anthropines. Anthropines. That kind of comes a little bit of Gnostic text, where the word for human beings is anthropos. And just since we're going to be speaking a little bit about some topics like climate change and the Anthropocene, or yeah, I think that's the word, Anthropocene, the anthropogenesis of what is kind of what the main proponents of climate change, what used to be known as global warming, was called. But let me introduce this. This is going to be called Mystic Blues. As you know, I have Mystic View, which I do with my co-host Shelley, and that's kind of that's the main show I do, and I do that for Global Mission of Peace TV. But I also occasionally just have times where I'm sitting around, I have topics on my mind, and certain things where some of my maybe untempered thought gets out. Shelley has a beautiful tempering effect on me, and I like that message. But I also, there's some message that'll just be kind of just Radagast stuff, and Radagast has some interesting derivations depending on how you want to look at the word, and I'm not going to get into it. But some of this solo stuff is some part of some Radagast type things. Anyway, so this is Mystic Blues, Spirit Cooking. No, well, since I'm going to write it up, but it's going to be Mystic Blues, Pizzagate, Fake News, and Earthquakes. Now, the interesting thing, and one of the reasons I'm calling it blues, because sometimes the blues will make you cry. If you see a little red around my eye, which you probably wouldn't have noticed if I hadn't pointed it out, I've had like a constant tearing of my left eye on the outside only that I've been dabbing at, and dabbing at to the point of some irritation. So just in case I have a slightly weepy look, Mystic Blues will work. But also some of the things I'm going to talk about, like Pizzagate. If you don't know what Pizzagate is, open up any YouTube site and search, put in Pizzagate, and wait for the incoming. I had watched an hour-long one and a 20-minute one, and the 20-minute one was kind of good because it really was examining some of the things, and it was and I'm going to put a link to that shorter one there. I'm actually going to do 2 screenshots from each of them just to demonstrate some of the things. I'm not going to run it. And then I'm going to probably run a little thing at the end as a little uplifter from some closing statements one of the newscasters at the Alex Jones channel did yesterday, having to do with the divide on what people are calling the political divide. I often I acknowledge that there are politics in being a human being, but organized politics is a game that gets played so that freedom is kept in check. And basically what the politics do is which way they're going to keep you in the pen. Like which freedoms they can grant you without granting you actual freedom. So Pizzagate, in case you don't know what it is, Pizzagate is something that came about when looking at the various emails that came out by WikiLeaks prior to the election, and they involve things that were gotten off of Hillary's server, but apparently also some things from John Podesta, who are if I'm sure he was her campaign manager. He was the one who came out and made the 2-minute speech to the Hillary people who were assembled at the Jacob Javits Center, because it had a glass ceiling. I remember she was going to break through the glass ceiling. And he came out and basically told them to go home and we'll talk about it again in the morning. He didn't tell them that Hillary had called Donald Trump and conceded. Just the whole way, I think that group, the people who supported Hillary, was handled when obviously the election had gone to Donald Trump that night, and how Hillary didn't come out, and then what John Podesta did to her. It just, again, these are not anthropines. And one of the reasons I use the word anthropine is because when you go into legal definitions, and legal is another thing I might want to get into one of these days, because legal is part of the patrix. Now, patrix is what I call the matrix, because to me there is a real wholesome matrix that is part of organic creation. And patrix is the parasitic kind of male, aggressive, heavy, parasitic, I would say parasitic, but the parasitic growth on the matrix. Where was I going with that? Oh boy, can I get a quick rewind? Anthropines. And so anyway, so there's legal definitions of human being. And when you go into legal definitions, they always tell you sea monster. So the word human being and natural person, there are a few words that we would think, oh, that describes me. But then you go into some legal definitions and you're going to realize they've already kind of, in their world, in their patrix world, have, when people come, like say, into a court and use certain terms, they have terms for what that means. So you think you're saying one thing, and then they have their definition. And so because it's coming out of your mouth, they take that as testimony from you saying what you are. And if you're saying you're a human being, they also have to see monster. So anyway, so an anthropine, or a person who's of the anthropos, which is that, to me, that divinely created human being, the divinely created being, and even being, all these words. I mean, I'm using words that they haven't already legally defined because I want to give them a middle finger. So anyway, us anthropines, those of us who realize that we are of a divine essence, and we were put on a planet that is also part of that divine essence, and that this planet is our inheritance. And in many ways, when after the planet was created and after we were created, creation was given to us. Okay, so and to carry on that creation properly requires utmost freedom. And those of us who don't like or think certain things need to be handled, we have the freedom to handle it. We're not creating a bureaucracy to handle it for us. The bureaucracy that is there are those who have been hanging around for centuries and even millennia, acting as administrators. And it's, they have come and gone. Some of them have been more talented. Some of them have been more anthropine than others. But generally speaking, those who look to lord over the rest of us anthropines are not operating as anthropines. And there's all kinds of metaphysical aspects to what makes somebody an anthropine or a non-anthropine. And some of it is a form of infection. And from the Gnostic tradition, that infection is an archontic infection. An archontic comes from a concept of archons, which means rulers in Greek. But I'm not going to dwell on it anyway. Greetings, fellow anthropines, to Mystic Blues. And so with the Pizzagate thing, if it seems I'm all over the place, it's kind of like how my mind operates. So I hope you can stay with me. The Pizzagate thing is, so again, it kind of comes out of all of these emails, and originally it comes out of the spirit cooking. Now, spirit cooking is a form of quote-unquote kind of Crowleyan magic. Crowley was a super anti-establishment person. And he also was a glory hog. So anything that got him some celebrity he liked. So being called the Beast, the most evil man alive, he loved it even if it wasn't true. He was somewhat depraved. He died a heroin addict. Something that somebody who had some appreciation for him, who would be Jimmy Page. Jimmy Page also fell into heroin addiction and got himself out, which means to me that I think more of Jimmy Page than I would ever think of Aleister Crowley. Because again, Aleister Crowley is not somebody you can just say, oh, he's all bad, oh, he's all good. He's Aleister Crowley. And generally I have little use for him. I've read some of it. I never made it to the end of any of it because he has a style that is purposely impenetrable, because he was a little bit of an intellectual snob, and enjoyed making people kind of struggle with his concepts. Plus, some of it was poetic. He was, you know, he wasn't a lightweight, that's for sure. So anyway, part of this Correllian stuff is spirit cooking. And there was a woman, I think her name was Anna. She had like a Serbian or Croatian last name and ended in VIC. Janovic, I think it might be. And she's not really important. She's just somebody who held these parties and did various kinds of performance art. And there's a picture of her, I think in the shorter one, where Lady Gaga's there, and there's either a real person or a fake person looking in what looks like it could be fake or real blood. And we see Lady Gaga's probably taking a little spoon, and somebody else is taking a little spoon of the blood, and Lady Gaga probably has already consumed it. And a big part of spirit cooking is you make mixtures of human blood and semen and breast milk. You know, again, this kind of depraved obsession with bodily fluids. And again, as a modern wizard, I am definitely aware of the life force in things like blood and semen. One of the reasons why blood and semen are how AIDS got transferred into people, because, well, AIDS, the virus that AIDS was quite, well, it was engineered, and it was made to interact magically with people in a way, and through their blood and their semen. And so, in other words, the main things of life, okay, contributors of life. I mean, ovums will just shed each month unless they're met by semen, and in which case life will result. Take blood out of a body, you don't have much life. So you can, you know, there are certain levels of where life is, and there's all kinds of probably interesting things you can do with semen and blood in a magical ritual, if that's where you want to go. Those of us who are mystics don't do all of that work. It's really unnecessary, and very often when you start doing that work, you start opening up all kinds of portals, and depending on how you get your source material, you attract all, if you put blood out in the open, what do you get? You're going to get flies and mosquitoes. Blood really belongs in the human body. That's where it was placed, and generally, when you see blood coming out of a human body, generally, because we do have women who have a monthly occurrence for much of their lives, that it's not pathogenic or pathological, I'm sorry. But anyway, so this whole spirit cooking thing is about depravity. All right. I mean, at its heart, it's about how do we be depraved? And in many ways, to me, they're signaling that they're not anthropines, that they have some kind of virus, and they stand against life, and they stand against what is honorable and divine about the anthropine species. So that's kind of, so first that door, the whole spirit cooking opened up. But as they're reading through the spirit cooking and the different emails from these people, they noticed an obsession with pizza and sometimes hot dogs. Excuse me. And like, in other words, apparently, I guess there was one intercepted email, and I believe it was from John Podesta, saying basically my other, or he didn't say wife, my partner is out for the night. Could I have pizza for an hour? Okay, not pizza in an hour, pizza for an hour. And then all kinds of questions about dominoes on pizza or pasta. So as you'll see, when at least in shorter, when I get you, what pizza is a code word. And apparently pizza is women, hot dogs are men, but in this case, we're talking about men and women who are still considered minors. So to me, a man or a woman who is still a minor is somebody post-pubescent, but still a minor. Cheese is a girl. Pasta is a boy. So these would be prepubescent. and prepubescent probably means anything from, you know, early teens, late ones, all the way down. And if you watch some of this, you're going to see some really creepy stuff. So Pizzagate basically is a pedophile ring. The fact that it was run out of two, well, there was one main pizzeria, Ping Pong. Ping Pong, I guess that's not the first name, but Ping Pong is part of it. And as you'll see in it, I mean, this was a place, actually, you know something, I'm just going to show you some of the art on the wall of this particular pizzeria. There we go. I have to kind of call it up and then put it full screen. But I want you to see, this is a place where supposedly children and adults can come. It's almost like a Chuck E. Cheese type place. But wait until you see, there's artwork in a few places. But let me just show you this main artwork here. There we go. And then I will make this full screen. And I'll wait for some of this stuff to get away. What you're seeing here, and of course you can see one of the ping pong tables there. And you have these naked people, and this person has a head under their arm, and this person is holding a head to another person. Heads without bodies? Okay, so I'm going to just stop my share there. And now I'll just make that smaller. Oop. And see if there's anything else here. I mean, I had a whole bunch of stuff called up. Oh, yeah, I didn't want to show her. Anyway, so Pizzagate. Pizzagate is this whole Washington, D.C. based pedophile ring. Now, there was one that actually had street signs. I seem to have lost that. There was one that on this one street where this Ping Pong Pizza is, and has another name above Ping Pong. Ping Pong is a secondary name. And then there's also Besta Pizza, like almost next door. And Besta is an anagram of beast. Everybody, you know, it's spelled B-E-S-T-A. And, you know, Besta, oh, you know, you go, oh, no, it's like an Italian accent. We have the Besta Pizza. Okay. These people, you know, these people are clever. They're not real intelligent, because only the creativity and real high-end intelligence belongs to anthropines. But they are clever. They're clever like a fox is considered clever. And a fox is a kind of a smaller version of a wolf. And that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with predators. And nobody can deny a fox is a predator. And if you've ever heard of the fox guarding the hen house, well, that's probably what we should see, because right diagonally, like down the street, a couple of stores, and on the other side of the street, apparently is some kind of Haitian place, a place that is owned by the Clinton Foundation, and for Haitian children, a few doors down from this Ping Pong Pizza place. So I mean, I don't know what I did with that. I don't know where I lost it. I had it queued up for this show. Oh, here it is. I found it. Very, very good. Okay. So just bear with me being all over the place during this mystic blues type of thing. Here we go. So anyway, so here we go. So, oh, it's Comet Ping Pong Pizza. Okay. So it's owned by Big Cheese and LLC. And the man who owns it is there's his name, James Alefantis. Okay. Anyway, then there's this other store I can't make out. Then there's Buck's Fishing and Camping, also owned by Big Cheese. Well, of course, you just might own the block here. Then, so here's Ping Pong, a store, Buck's Camping, and then here's Besta. And what it is they now have changed the logo. But if you can see here, there's an original form of it on the side, and there's those triangles within a triangle are hearts within a heart. If you watch any of these, you'll see these are logos for Man, Boy, Love, and other kinds of pedophile organizations. Matter of fact, here you can see it kind of like where they show this kind of spiraling triangle. And apparently another one is sometimes you'll see two hearts, one within the other. And they show one logo and many of the things I watched, and it was a heart with an adult hand with a small hand on top of the adult hand. So anyway, so here we have Comet Ping Pong. This is the one where they had that creepy artwork. Also, apparently in the restroom, there was a sign of some kind of alien, with the blurb, how you have with the cartoon character saying something. And I'm pretty sure, if I recall correctly, the words coming out of the mouth is "shut up and fuck." Ooh, okay. Pretty interesting thing to have in a pizzeria that's supposedly for adults and specializing in children. Shut up and fuck. I might be paraphrasing a little bit. I mean, the shut up might be a little bit longer, but the fuck part is certainly there. So we have Comet, then we have Bucks. And I remember when I saw that big Bucks fishing and camping, it's like, come on, boys and girls, let's go on a camping trip. But I could be being overly creative there. Then you have the Besta pizza. And then you have over here, I don't know, I can't quite make out what that is. Down over here, you have Prose. Famous readers and its authors' events have included politicians such as Bill Clinton, Barack Obama. And it's owned by a Hillary Rodham Clinton speechwriter. So down here, as you towards the screen, and because I'm moving my cursor, there's that little line going through it. But it's called Beyond Borders, charity focused on Haiti, funded by the Clinton Foundation. And then down here is Tarasol, another pedophile symbol found on the website. And what's that? That's it's right. It's a bistro and artisans gallery or something. And so anyway, so you down this whole street, you just have what I'm going to call some depraved things going on. So anyway, this is kind of like the thing around Pizzagate, and it's breaking, and it's the tip of the iceberg. It's not a news story. I mean, as I'm going through this, Elijah Wood, even relatively recently, at 35 years of age, because if I recall, when he did The Lord of the Rings, he was in his early 20s, and he was speaking, there had to be like 100 sexual predators in Hollywood alone. And, we've had people like Corey Feldman and Corey, I think it was Heitzman. It's interesting, they both have the same first name, who have also spoken about what goes on in Hollywood. And so anyway, so there's this whole really tawdry thing that is becoming evident. And then you have Jimmy Savile, unless you've been paying any attention to that, and what he did over in England. He's now dead, so they could speak about it, but while he was alive, you couldn't get an investigation going. Not to mention, he was knighted by the Queen Lizard Breath. But now, of course, I play loose with things like the lizards and things like that. From a biological aspect, and when you look at how psychopaths operate, and how if you put them in an MRI and you show them all kinds of gruesome to sweet images, how they just kind of look at it like you're showing sand going through an hourglass, and you show it to a regular person, and they have flashes all over the cerebral cortex. There is something about the psychopath that is very reptilian, in that we have a reptilian brain, a mammalian brain, and then we have our anthropine brain. And so there's something really kind of unemotional, devoid of empathy, at the what we'll call the lizard type people. And I'm not going to get into the whole reptilians and stuff, because to me it's a distraction. We look at people who all look like humans until they start to speak, until you start to see how they react. And then, of course, you might also find out what kind of private lives they have. And then you realize, oh boy, we're not really all anthropines, are we? No, we are not. And then, when it comes to, like, again, if we want to get to statistics, Thomas Sheridan says there's 3% psychopaths. I've heard it go up to 5. I'm very comfortable with 3. Matter of fact, anytime something might be sensational, I always want the lower number, because that's erring on a side of caution. So, you know, to me, part of all this stuff coming out is the fact that we live in apocalyptic times. Now, when you realize that the real meaning of the word apocalypse is unveiling, that's what we're seeing. When we find out people like this who are trying to represent themselves as the next ruling family and or congregation of people, you know, which was the Hillary Clinton camp, and now we see all this stuff come out. This is an apocalypse. This is an unveiling of clearly inhuman type behavior. All right, so we're done with Pizzagate. All right, you need to, this is really an important story, and there will be references to it. And if you don't, most of the stuff that's out right now is probably the best you're gonna get, because you're gonna get kind of just the overview, and I think the overview is all you need. Actually, the last thing I want is any in-depth investigation. I have enough of, because I'm an anthropine, I have enough imagination to take what I'm given and figure out what that really means. I don't really need to read gory details. I'm not looking to have adrenaline spikes. Adrenaline junkies like their adrenaline, go for it, and then maybe you can tell the rest of us. Okay, so we have Spiritgate, Pizza. Then there's the whole fake news thing that the people who, to me, put out the fake news are doing. Now, this is exactly what goes on with the uncreative or non-anthropine people. And that what they try to do is they kind of, it's almost like an inoculation. They try to inoculate themselves against what they are by creating that thing outward. So the people who, to me, have created the most amount of at least misleading news, and much of it is fake, are now calling people who do not agree with their narrative, because that's all news is a narrative. It's mind control. The mainstream news, the network corporate-owned news is mind controlled. I don't remember which CIA director said it, and it could be 20, 30 years ago, and they said, when the American public believes in things that are absolutely untrue, or 100% of, you know, when we get to 100% of what the American public believes that's untrue, we'll have done our job. Okay. I understand maybe the need for intelligence agencies, but first of all, the CIA is tasked with foreign stuff. So when somebody at the head of that organization says that they will consider their job accomplished when the people who are paying their salaries are so duped that 100% of what they believe is false, that they have done their job, I think these people need to be fired. Donald Trump, can we get a "you're fired"? They were also letting people know that they're involved in the creation of the news. So again, if it's corporate news, lots of people with, you know, who are makeup and fancy hair and stuff like that. It's one of the reasons I wish Alex Jones people didn't wear ties. Alex himself doesn't. I think any attempt to make ourselves look at all like them is to confuse people. So the fake news, which is a narrative, which apparently is very much fed by, we'll just call them intelligence agencies, wants us to believe a narrative. And we are born into narratives. But there's also fresh narrative. And fresh narrative is kind of a predictive programming. There's something they want to unveil, but they have to prepare the psychological or emotional landscape before what they introduce makes sense. Because if they just bring it in raw before you've been prepared, you might go, that's a horrible idea. But if you've been prepared the right way and this answer comes up, it actually becomes the problem reaction solution, which is basically thesis, antithesis, synthesis. Problem action solution. And so that's really what the news is. The news is nothing more than preparing you for plans that have already been done, kind of like, let's see, the Patriot Act, which I don't know how many thousands of pages it was like ready 3 days after 9/11. Makes you wonder about that narrative. So that's something that's really going on right now. Right now, many of the people who have been providing to me what I consider to be good information, whether I don't agree with anybody 100%, and I don't expect anybody to agree with me 100%. It's not necessary to have that actually to have a complete agreement would be total, and that would be totalitarianism, and we are not. That is what we don't want. That is actually part of what we see with the narrative. They want a total domination of your reality. So, and you'll always be prepared for new things they want to insert. So, this whole, and now the European Union, the Parliament, decided to classify RT and Sputnik and other Russian news outlets in with Islamic State propaganda. I mean, they're actually trying to say basically that Russian news is the same thing as head chopper terrorist news. I think it's going to fail. I mean, amongst the people who they convinced that the election of Donald Trump was a Trumpocalypse, they probably still have some people. But I'm seeing, when I'm looking at some of the places where a lot of the aggrieved parties are gathering for, group consolation, I see some stuff that's really over the top. And I think a lot of people who were quite comfortable being in certain places are no longer going to be there. And I think I've already said that, so I don't want to repeat myself. So a lot of the people who are not putting out fake news are doing the kind of same thing. When Hillary Clinton called all Donald Trump supporters deplorables, next thing you knew, everybody was, I'm a deplorable. They actually wore it as a badge of honor. And I think that worked then. I think that was really good. They took something that was supposed to be kind of an insult and they turned it into a positive. That's beautiful. To me, that's good magic. But when it comes to fake news, they're starting to embrace the fake news with a little bit of a badge of honor, and it's good initially. But I think that the people who have been accused of creating fake news ought to really understand that basically what they want is their free and hopefully responsible news. Alex Jones, because of the movement he's in, calls it, I guess, liberty-based, and I can see how that sells better with the United States, and I think I might have said that too. But freedom and responsibility go together. I mean, when I look at a bunch of people who really are poorly informed, emotionally stunted, and generally clueless, the last thing I would like them to do is the freedom to do whatever they wanted, because they haven't been given good parameters of like what it is to be a responsible anthropine, how to really operate in the social contact sport that being an anthropine is. And it is a contact sport. And so therefore, where's your safe space? It's in your home. Our safe spaces have always been a home. When I lived at Omega, my safe space was my tent. When I was out socializing, it was a slightly different thing. I mean, like, I had to keep clothes on. In my tent, it was warm enough, I could walk around naked, which I like to do. And so, again, my tent was my safe space, and it was mine. And it had my bed and my clothes and my computer and my guitars. And it was very nice. And I didn't need anything more than my place. So freedom and responsibility are like, I like to think they're inseparable. It's like a couple that holds hands that are crazy glued together. If we're going to have true freedom, then we need the responsibility of freedom. Or else, because if you want freedom to do whatever you want with any kind of social consideration or interplay, it would create chaos. It's like having a band together and one person decides, tonight I'm not playing with the rest of you. Tonight's my solo night. Okay, it just doesn't work out. And in many ways, having a good neighborhood or a good community is a lot like having a band. And in this case, it's more like having an orchestra. And once again, if you're sitting in a line of violinists and somebody decides they're going to either play a different song or slightly different timing or play eighth notes where they're supposed to be quarter notes, it doesn't really work. It's not to say it would be horrible, but again, it's not the time. And if you really feel the need to do some kind of violin concerto different, then get your own group together and have them have to tolerate your freedom. So anyway, I don't like the idea. I don't like calling the real news fake news. I like calling it freedom news, free news, liberty news, responsible news. Again, to me, something that when it comes to being free, responsibility is the echo you hear. If you hear free, you hear responsible. Okay? Freedom, responsibility. It's always there. And, okay. There was now we're going to go to earthquakes. Because my eye is lightly tearing, my nose is slightly running, so excuse me. There was an earthquake in the Xinjiang province of China. That's over where the Uyghurs are, or the Turkic speaking and kind of largely Turkic ethnic, and it's a Muslim sovereign state. And of course, anytime there is a group that is not thrilled about the main government, and again, I can understand certain people chafing under the Chinese government. I might even have something to say about that again, although because I really believe in each of our countries staying out of each other's business, kind of a concept of sovereign, you can kind of look into China and go, I'm really glad I don't live there, but since I don't live there, I don't have a strong voice in what goes on in there. Again, our opinions matter. I think that there is the court of public opinion, and I think that if we're all in open dialogue with each other, when we're looking at someone going, look, I'm not going to tell you to change it, but I got to tell you, I'm not thrilled with it. And although if your people are cool with it, it's really none of my business, is it? But are you people really cool with it? Again, but we don't need to stir the pot. But I really got off it. So that earthquake that hit there, I think it was a 6.5, and it was at a 10-kilometer depth. Now, I think I've mentioned this a little bit, but I really want, if you follow any of the earthquakes, please go look for the depth. You might have heard of the earthquake generating machines. They're part of also the various things that can create, like that high pressure system that created a dry spell in California for I don't know how many months on end. And you could see the systems coming in and just blowing up. There is all kinds of weather modification. I mean, there's even a video somewhere of one of the Rothschilds speaking about how in the future farmers can buy their weather. In other words, if you would like rain when you want it and sun when you want it, that can be arranged. Okay. All right. So, I mean, so there's the subtle stuff that you need to hear. But anyway, a 10-kilometer earthquake, which is what I know, a little over 5 miles in the imperial system of measurement, is a shallow earthquake. The ones that hit central Italy, the first one that really set it off, and I think another one after the middle one, were also 10 kilometers. These are generated. Now, I do believe that they're working with the sun, because the interesting thing is there's a YouTube site called Suspicious Observers. The guy who runs it, Ben Davidson, a really responsible guy. With a lot, which shows you the sun, and he has some, I think it's, I don't know if it's a Cambodian, his last name is Pop. Anyway, he's from Southeast Asia, and he developed a thing about different kinds of spots on the face of the sun, and how if you correspond it and extrapolate it out to the earth and what's facing what, you can see places where storms would develop and where earthquakes might develop. So, and in generally what happens is where places where earthquakes are shown to be possible because of these sunspots, invariably he'll speak about them coming, and then when they do happen, he'll tune in and call up the earthquake and show you the information. way over half the time. I mean, almost not every time, but more often than not. When he calls it up, it says 10 kilometers. And of course, maybe because he doesn't want to be bothered, he doesn't go on there, or maybe that's escaping him, how common that it seems that it's 10 kilometers. What I think is happening is that those who create earthquakes, and they're usually sending political messages. And if you go to places like Giza Death Star and listen to the constant, subtle, under the surface political maneuverings, and that Joseph P. Farrell talks about, you kind of see who might be creeping up on the radar, like who might be upsetting the New World Order. And then when you suddenly find out that some real devastating 10-kilometer earthquake hit that area, you go, ooh, somebody's being sent a message. So anyway, the ones that devastated Italy about a month ago, I know the initial one was 10 kilometers, and I think there was a natural aftershock, and then they hit it with another 10K because apparently they wanted more damage. The one that happened off of Fukushima just, a week ago, 10 kilometers. The one that happened in Xinjiang today in China, or last night, 10 kilometers. And so what I'm thinking is what they're doing is they're piggybacking. They're finding out where there is the greatest potential based on the sun for earthquakes to happen naturally. Then they turn on the machine, and I think it's a lot easier for them to do. And again, apparently the 10 kilometers is apparently where their focus is of whatever kind of wave they're using to create this. And I'm also thinking what it is they're waiting. They can follow the same sunspot thing that Ben Davidson does, and they go, "Ooh, let's see who we'd like to send a message to that's falling under this sphere. Oh, okay, this is a good time because the sun is going to give us the extra juice that we need to make sure that this happens." And I tie this into another thing from Joseph Farrell. I've read 2 of his books. And they not the original ones. It was Grid of the Gods and Genes, Giants, Monsters, and Men. And I'm pretty sure it was in Grid of the Gods they go over how the earliest hydrogen bomb tests of the United States gave them yields much greater than they expected. And then, of course, there was another one they ultimately did that actually almost fizzled in comparison to what they were talking to. But it was the greater yields that they were looking at. And there was a German scientist in Argentina who said, oh, yeah, that's because of certain planetary alignments. And part of when you look at our solar system, it's really like a cell, and that's in between there is what looks like empty space, but is really like cellular fluid. And the various angles and things of the planets, which is what astrology is based on, create ripples and effects and whatever. And this German scientist identified that what planets are doing at any given time affects the yield of a hydrogen bomb. And so basically, if you were to use like a 2 megaton hydrogen bomb at the right time, you could get a yield of almost 10 megatons. So anyway, so that's kind of what I'm hypothesizing. Based on how often when I do watch a Suspicious Observers, and I don't do it every day, but invariably it goes, and an earthquake as we predicted, and he opens up and there's that 10 kilometer. And all you have to do is go look at any kind of earthquake records for a region, and you'll see how varied earthquake depths are. Most of them are fairly deep. Some of them are not so shallow, but 10 kilometers is really shallow. And invariably, if you follow Suspicious Observers and where he thinks that earthquakes happen, and then they do happen, more times than not, of course, that's not to say every time, you will see a 10-kilometer signature. So I just thought I'd share that with you. And so part of my mystic blues is that they whacked China. Pizzagate is certainly a thing that I don't like. And calling and now trying to almost legislate against the freedom of the press and the kind of the people who are uncovering the apocalyptic actors of the false narrative or the preferred narrative of the NWO or the powers that be. I refuse to call them the elite, even if it slips out of my mouth sometimes. There's only one elite, and they would be anthropine. Now, not all of us are elite, and that's okay. But the thing is, an anthropine elite, kind of, when you look at people who are not performing at an elite thing, and you might see them as almost childlike, well, the natural thing for an anthropine is to be kind of parent-like. You know what I mean? You kind of go, oh, okay, well, we'll do the best for them. And you do the best for them like you would your own children. You don't go, oh, look at these disgusting, useless eaters. You know, let's have a war. It's good for the Mick, and we'll lose a few of the smelly ones. You know, I don't know where I came up with an English accent. Anyway, probably because the main troublemakers of the Anglo-American Empire, and snootiness is certainly something we would have gotten from the English. As the English global controllers. And at one point, and then not even 100 years ago, many of the global controllers actually were much more elite. I mean, you had many of them were in the sciences. I mean, I guess maybe, if you had a bank, if you had like, 4 brothers, 3 of them went into banking, at least one of them became a geologist, or, some kind of real science, something that actually other anthropines could benefit from this person having gotten really good in that field. It seems it's only in the last century that what used to be some form of elite in the ruling families have now just become administrators, and all talent comes from us. I mean, if they need bodyguards, it's either police or special forces. Where'd they come from? They came from us. Whether it's all the secret black projects, where all the scientists come from us. We're it. The anthropines are the talent pool. And for them, they just see it as like, which cattle do we use today? Anyway, so that's that. So we have earthquakes. Remember, 10 kilometer. Kanye West, somebody who I could really, as an artist, okay? As an artist, Kanye West is just not on my list. As a fellow anthropine, Kanye's my brother, all right? Provided he's still an anthropine. And my guess is he came out as an anthropine over this past week or weekend, and that's why they have him heavily sedated and in a psychiatric ward and unable to check himself out until they say he can check out. He apparently said some things, and apparently said he didn't vote, but if he did, he would have voted for Trump. And Alex Jones came up with I guess a bittersweet kind of tag for what Kanye was. Basically, they said some reports say he was handcuffed and taken out on a gurney. All right. But other people say, he was at a friend's house, and they decided he was unstable and needed to be restrained and drugged. I mean, right now there's kind of like a silence on him. And but anyway, the term that Alex Jones came up with, Kanye was guilty of trumping while black. Now, if maybe you're not aware of that, there used to be something of that. One of the great black, from the experience of being black, especially in a city, that they were guilty of being black on a Saturday night, and that's why they got arrested. And it was why they got arrested, because they were black on a Saturday night. So this was trumping while black. But this kind of, the fact that this is a high-profile person, celebrities are worshipped as idols. It's part of the idol worship that unfortunately has been part of Western civilization. We don't worship God. We worship celebrities and money and power. We don't, God is, it might be in our belief system, but when you look at where the worship is, where the fealty, that's loyalty, is where the, I have a choice between what this person thinks and what God thinks. Well, what this person thinks will win more often than not in the current psychological stew that's kind of going around with us. I wish for some, I guess having the blues kind of has a squelching effect on my normal English usage. So anyway, so Kanye West, here's somebody who kind of spoke out of line. And if you're not aware of the mind control that goes on in Hollywood and the entertainment industry, because these people are people that are worshipped. Their word is like an oracle, the word of an oracle. So if one of the gods who are set up by the powers that be, by the New World Order, happens to speak something that is not part of their narrative, they have to be shut up immediately, because what's coming out for them is like, even to me, the NWO is the virus, but you have to look at it in reverse. So they will see any truth as being something of a virus to their virus. Basically what it is, it's the immune response to their viral infection. And so Kanye West apparently had to be taken out because he was turning into a T killer cell for their narrative. And so the virus is ganged up on him and took him out. It'd be interesting to see what happens in the future. And if any public statements he makes, if he ever makes another public statement, whether it even ever gets out. This should be very, very interesting. And I guess I'll close with disclosure. Kind of like this is a potpourri of subjects today, but I just think right now with what the most interesting thing is, even I want to promote a good website, the One Truth website, and if you want to find it, you have to put danandjean21.com. But if you put the One Truth forum in Google, it'll take you to Jan and Dean. It's a relatively small forum. I mean, I think it's like 1/10, 1/20th the membership, maybe 1/100th the membership of something like Project Avalon. But Project Avalon is just, well, the word is in the word project. Okay, we had Project Paperclip and we have Project Avalon. Anyway, so the One Truth is a place where I go and we have some nice stuff there. So I mean, just kind of inviting people if they want to go there. I have a couple of threads I do there. I'm Mod Wiz there, as I am on here, Mod Wiz. But there I'm just playing Mod Wiz. I tried to be just playing Mod Wiz on YouTube, but apparently there already was a Mod Wiz. So I picked a number that added up to 8, and I picked 1, 2, and 5 because 8 is my birth path. Yes, numerology is one of the things that is part of my studies, but I use the arts. I'm not much of a teacher. I will speak about them from time to time, but there's some really good people. And then you have that young man from Vermont, Styx Hexenhammer. I'm not sure what his real name is. Apparently it's out there, but I haven't heard him use it. He does all kinds of really good stuff. And even though he calls himself a Satanist, it's not the anti-human stuff. It's more like, a disavowal of organized religion than any kind of dark stuff. But he does all kinds of interesting talks on numerology, maybe a little astrology. I mean, to me, basic kind of self-help magic in many ways. One of the best books I ever read on self-help magic was, I guess, Helping Yourself with White Witchcraft or something by Al Manning. It was actually pretty good. It was a good primer. You get to learn the basics of associations. But I might even have said that in one of my many. I now have, over 200 plus videos up. So who knows what I've said in the past. But I'm hoping there's going to be some new people. I had gotten up to 840 subscribers. I think I'm back down to 837, 836. So obviously, as I interest people when I talk about certain things, and I bring some people on and some people leave. And the last thing I'm ever going to try and do is figure out what it is that anybody expects me to do and then chase them. I don't chase. I will speak, be who I am, offer what I offer, and people will either find it interesting or they won't. And they will subscribe or they will unsubscribe. So disclosure. So anyway, like on places like the One Truth Forum, a lot of people are saying, we need disclosure. And of course, a lot of people think that disclosure automatically means everybody will no longer have an electric bill because free energy will be distributed everywhere. That's a kind of an unsophisticated thinking. I think we could get there without quote unquote disclosure. But the interesting thing is, who do they want disclosure from? Okay. What is real disclosure for them? Because most of people believe it. Many of them have had abductee experiences. Many of them have seen UFOs multiple times. So what they really are looking for is they want the people who think they're crazy to understand that they're not crazy. But my issue is who they're asking to disclose. They're asking the two most pathological, if not psychopathic institutions to please tell us about the aliens. And that would be government, and that would be the narrative media, the corporate NWO media. These are the people they're asking for to do disclosure. The two most untrustworthy, lying, psychopathic entities as far as their presence in our midst, and these are the ones they want to give disclosure. I consider that cognitive dissonance with a little mixture of narcissism at the highest level. First of all, the cognitive dissonance is you're asking for people who anybody who knows who these entities are know that they're garbage. They know that they're liars. They know that they misrepresent reality. They at least at the government level, our taxpayer dollars go to an organization that wants us to believe 100% nonsense and their job would be done. Okay? So the cognitive dissonance is asking the most untrustworthy people that we know at the macro level to disclose. That's cognitive dissonance. Why did I say narcissistic? Because the whole reason I say narcissistic is the main reason that people want them to disclose is because the people who don't believe them, okay? And so really what it comes down is they don't really care who does it as long as nobody thinks I'm a weirdo anymore. And that's narcissism. So anyway, talking about this helped me. I hope it wasn't too rough for you. I hope it was engaging. Of course, there's always that pause or stop switch or whatever. But that's my Mystic Blues. So if I guess I can... for November 26th. Oh, actually, I think I started on the 25th. At least I hope no, maybe not, because then it would be too long. Anyway, so I'm going to say goodnight to all you fellow anthropines out there. Those are the ones who understand that we have a divine spirit in us, and this planet was created for us, and then we were created to belong on this planet. This is our planet. And we didn't ask for any usurpers or middlemen. Okay? Usurpers and middlemen, they would be known as government that we are unhappy with. It's fine for us to appoint our own and kind of get things right, but currently we have usurpers and middlemen. And they're just taking their cut, and they're a greedy bunch. It's not like they take a little bit and live really, really high on the hog and everybody else can live well. No. Their greed does not know its limits. So anyway, all my fellow anthropines out there, I say goodnight to you. God bless you all. Until next time. And it'll probably be a Mystic Brew.